Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. Enjoy complimentary access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with a welcome offer of 150,000 points after you spend $20,000 on purchases on the card within your first 3 months of membership, your business can soar to new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
It's summer. Time to enjoy long days, lazy nights, and zero cooking. Because Uber Eats has deals all summer long. So when hunger strikes, don't sweat it. Delicious deals are just a tap away on Uber Eats. Enjoy all your favorite food delivered straight to you. Get Burger King, Subway, Popeyes, and hundreds more local favorites and savor every last bite. Now that sounds like a good summer. Order now on Uber Eats. Terms apply. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.
Hello, and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. My name is Austin, also known as Teacup.
And my name is Shelby, also known as She-Cup.
Join us as we embark on unraveling all of your favorite mysteries from the Assassin's Creed universe. From assassins to Templars to the mysterious Isu and more. We will seek to uncover it all, so join us and maybe even take a leap of faith.
Hello, and welcome to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast, where we talk about all the lore of Assassin's Creed. My name is Shelby. You might also know me as She-Cup, and I'm joined here with my co-host for this podcast.
Yeah, so I am Austin, also known as Teacup.
And we're super excited to be back. I know we've had a little bit of a break for the holidays, so we've kept you waiting for our part 2 of Eivor, unfortunately. But we are back today to talk about the rest of her life and to finish up what we know about her story. So, Austin, are we ready to just jump right in?
We are. And so this is your point where there aren't going to be any spoilers for the last chapter DLC. I'm going to mention it, but I'm not going to go into any detail of the things that happen in there just because that part is so recent. It is very short, so go play it if you haven't. But I'm not going to really go into any details of that DLC. But this is your spoiler warning for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Assassin's Creed The Wrath of the Druids, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Siege of Paris, all of those things. These are your spoiler warnings for that. So, we last left Eivor after she and Sigurd and Basim and Hatham had defeated Kyoto and taken their fortress. What?
Do you mean Hatham? You said Hatham.
Yes. Hatham. It's all the same.
Is it?
And so after they beat the battle, we learned that Gorm escapes and lives to fight another day. So we're picking up with Eivor and her group here. And so Eivor, Sigurd, and Basim all leave Kjotve's fortress and head to Alrekstad, which is Harold's kind of fortress, to inform him of their victory over Kjotve. So they travel there, and when they arrive, they learn that Harold is hosting an Atheling, which is kind of like a gathering of all the nobles or leaders in like a big kind of meeting, whatever. But we learn that because of this, Harold has declared a truce in his city and says that no blood and no violence is to be had into his city while this meeting is going on, which Gorm and his men are now under the protection of. So we see the issue. Now, this isn't an uncommon thing that rulers of cities would do to ensure that like peaceful meetings would actually be peaceful. So Eivor, obviously being who she is, does not want to keep the peace. She wants to kill Gorm. So with the help of Basim, she learns to kind of sneak into Gorm's camp, where she confronts him and attempts to force him to basically just like, hey, let's step outside the city wall so I can kill you. Which kind of seems to be like, you know, as we might say, kind of following the letter of the law and not the spirit of the law situation kind of going on here.
Right. She's very much skirting the rules.
Yes. And so obviously Gorm is not stupid, and he knows that Eivor is a superior fighter, and so he's not going to fight her. So he's not goaded, and eventually Harold's guards come into the camp and intervene and basically says, no one's going to break the King Harold's peace, like back to your respective areas. This is over. So they all attend this meeting, and Harold announces his plan to unite all the clans of Norway under his banner. So he will be the king of Norway. And he asks all these people who will join him, basically. And some people join him. Some people say, we're leaving this land. Like, we don't want to be a part of you. We don't bear you any ill will, but we want to live in our own freedom. So we're going to leave. Gorm comes up and says that he will join King Harold. And he does so by telling lies that Eivor and their men snuck into their camp and murdered Kjotve in cold blood, and not basically telling that Eivor has wrongfully killed his father. Well, obviously this is an obvious lie, and Harold's own cousin was there present for the whole battle. And so Harold's basically like, Gorm, you're a liar. You're now exiled. He names him Worm and exiles him. Put a pause in that because we'll come back to that later. At this point, Styrbjorn, Sigurd's father, pledges himself and his clan to Harold without Eivor and Sigurd's knowledge. So basically, to kind of put this in context, Styrbjorn has basically given away Sigurd's inheritance as like his own king and jarl to be servants to this Harold, without telling Sigurd that it was going to happen.
So, like, is this Harold guy, like, is he even a well-known king that they would want to follow, or is he just some dude?
He's an accomplished warrior, and he's an accomplished leader. So there's no real shame in following him, but, like, for someone like Sigurd, who was raised as the son of a jarl and someone who was a king, it's a step down.
And they're giving up their freedom because they're now beholden to a lord, a different person, not like being able to rule their own people.
Yes, it's very much kind of like a situation where, you know, in Last Kingdom, all of the Eldermen are under Alfred, who is king of Wessex. Like, the Eldermen have their own title and nobility and a little bit of their freedom, but they are beholden to Alfred, and Alfred tells them what to do. Whereas it's kind of similar situation, like Sigurd would still be a jarl, but he would be beholden to Harold at this point. Whereas or he would risk warfare.
Mm-hmm. Whereas he was not before. He was just him and his own group of people.
Correct.
Yeah, I'd be pissed too.
Yeah. So naturally, he's enraged by this deceit. And like, so he and Eivor basically plan to say, like, we're going to leave Norway and settle in England where we can be kings of our own and places of our own. So they kind of gather up like people they need. They get a blacksmith, a brewer, or someone who can do ale, farmers, other people who are willing to come with them who don't want to live under Harold's yoke. And they all kind of gather secretly in the Longhouse to meet about this. And it's thrown out that they should take the spoils of Quixote's fortress for themselves because it's Eivor and Sigurd who won them, and therefore they don't rightfully belong to Steerborn. Well, Eivor and Sigurd actually oppose this. They say that the riches do belong to Steerborn because they won them while they were under his banner, and that they should look at this as a fresh start and not leave with any kind of baggage attached to them from the time before that. Now, there's a canon decision, which is what is made, is that they don't take the stuff, but this is actually a choice that the player can make. You can choose to take the supplies, and you get basically kind of like a small supply bump when you start settling in England, but you get negative like approval points with Sigurd. Or you can side with what Sigurd says and you get positive approval points, but you are set back a little bit of resources. It's not enough to like really put a detriment into you. You just have a little bit of an edge.
Right. I mean, that's a really smart decision because like I'm sitting over here like, oh yeah, take it. You earned it. Take it. But like now once you say that, I'm like, oh, yeah, that tactically makes more sense because now they don't have to like look over their shoulder for the rest of their lives, wondering if they're going to like get stabbed in the back for taking this.
Right. And so eventually, so Basim and Hytham also say that they're going to come with the duo to England for whatever reason. But there's a really fun scene that you can get. So basically, when you're getting ready to leave, Steerborn returns with Harold's men after that and realizes that his son and Eivor are leaving. If you have not taken the supplies, there is a kind of like heartfelt, like but sad, melancholy scene between Sigurd and Eivor and Steerborn, where he's like, I don't like this, but I understand what you're doing. So go. Whereas if you did take that, he's really mad that you took the supplies, and he basically says to Eivor, I should have left you to the wolves.
Yikes.
Which you could interpret like the literal wolves who were going to eat Eivor when she was a kid, or you could interpret that as the wolf clan, and he shouldn't have helped.
Or you can interpret it as both.
Yeah. But so that's kind of where we sit. We're going to take the canon decision. Eivor did not want the supplies, so they are kind of free. So it takes them 3 weeks to sail from Norway to England, which I am not a sailor. I don't know what the technology was at the time. I don't know if that's long. I don't know if that's short from Norway to England.
I don't know. It seems long to me, but I'm an American, and I don't know if those, I mean, I know that they're not close per se, but it's way closer than we are. So it feels like it should be shorter, but I don't know if that's accurate.
Right. I mean, we also know that like our standard map that we normally look at, like those are not the actual sizes of the countries or the
That's
continents.
true.
Like Europe is much smaller, like geographically, than it appears on like our standard maps. So, you know, like they could be relatively more closer. I mean, England, there are several states that are bigger than England geographically. And like, it's not like they're going like through Europe and then up. They're like just sailing across the north side of Europe right there.
Right. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe 3 weeks is average. I don't know. Someone who's sailing, tell us, is 3 weeks, would that be a long time or a short time for them to get to England? But they arrive in England in 873 CE. They sail up the river. I really looked I did not look at the actual map, but I looked for which river Ravensthorpe lies on. I could not find it. So if you know it, let me know.
I don't know, man. I know nothing about Norway. Genuinely, I know nothing about it other than the fact that it's Scandinavian.
So anyway, they sail up the river and they come across a abandoned settlement that they discover is overrun with Saxon bandits. So after they, in their Viking ways, discover that they destroy the bandits and move them out, they discover and establish the settlement of Ravensthorpe. It is here that Eivor meets the Chinese merchant Yanni and Rowan, the Saxon stable hand, who both agree to join the Raven clan and live at Ravensthorpe. So he now has a merchant and a Saxon, so we're already building this diverse cast of characters, which, it's not that unfathomable to exist at this time. England was not like a monoculture at the time of like people that were around there because of how the Roman Empire distributed people. Eivor then learns that Sigurd, after they establish that, is leaving with Basim to meet with the sons of Ragnar in the north. He then tasks Eivor with growing Ravensthorpe and building alliances with the other Viking clans and groups around England. So they basically want to establish themselves as a very well-established Viking group. So, also English people, please forgive me. You all sometimes put too many words into one syllable, so I'm going to try to pronounce these. Forgive me if I don't get them. Eivor builds alliances with groups of Grantebridgeshire and Leicestershire. This is where Eivor meets Ubba Ragnarsson and his brother Ivar the Boneless. So Ubba and Ivar are both historical characters that we do know existed. Now, I will tell you, if you watch Last Kingdom, this Ubba is very different than the Ubba in Last Kingdom.
Yes. And I don't think Ubba in the Last Kingdom is Ubba Ragnarsson. He has a different last name.
Yes. Which a lot of them shared names. So that's one of the problems with the historical narrative is like, think about like Last Kingdom Uhtred. There were like 16 Uthrids. There's like 5 Uthrids in the book itself.
Several. Yeah. And also I'm pretty sure Ivar the Boneless is not in the show, but he is in the books.
Yes. He is a very, he is like a historical character known as like a very savage Viking. And that's how he is in the game as well. So they do aid with Ceolbert, who is the son of the future king of Mercia, Ceolwulf, also historical king of Mercia. So they help them out and they build a relationship and they get through this. They crown Ceolwulf the king of Mercia. So Eivor is now part of this alliance. Ravensthorpe is in Mercia. So little historical lesson. There were 4 areas of England that kind of existed as kingdoms in their mother Celtic areas. So you had Northumbria, which was a little more like ununified. There were probably several kings. You had East Anglia, Mercia, and then Wessex, which were the 4 kingdoms of England. And those were the areas. And it's not till much later after this point that all of them unite to be like one England under one king.
And they all have gone through different periods where they're all powerful or where one is more powerful than the other. But it is Wessex where that becomes the seat of power eventually.
Yes. But London, where is now the capital, that is in the Kingdom of Mercia.
But it was on the border between Mercia and Wessex at the time. I know this because I read all the Last Kingdom books. Not because I know anything about British history. No offense.
But this is important. Listeners. This is important because Eivor has now taken place in the crowning and usurping of a crown of one of the major kingdoms of England. So now Ceolwulf is a Viking puppet king, which a lot of times, the Viking jarls, they wouldn't want to actually like sit in the chair. So they would get a Saxon who was basically just a puppet to sit in the chair and be king and run things for them while they were actually in charge and would just collect tribute. And so, while back in Ravensthorpe, basically Ceolwulf sends Ceolbert with Eivor to be like, to toughen him up, basically. To say like, hey, go with them, live with the Raven clan for a little bit so you can like learn to be a warrior. Which, like, that's some trust. If you were a Saxon, would you send your your heir and son off to live with a village of Vikings?
I mean, no, but this is actually something that happened a lot in history. They would send hostages in lieu of like a promise or whatever that I'll keep your son, I'll keep your person safe as long as you do this thing you told me you would do. And this happens all the time in like every Viking show I've watched. And it's something that really happened in history. So it is weird. It is odd to us, but it's not as weird in context as it may seem on the surface.
Yeah. So at this point, mercenaries from East Anglia attack Ravensthorpe, and Eivor then vows to figure out who they are and sets out for East Anglia. Well, through this process, Eivor assists East Anglia against warring Viking clans, and in the end, Eivor is victorious and crowns Oswald king of East Anglia. So now we have both Mercia and East Anglia that Eivor has taken place in setting forth their king on that throne, which is a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's a lot of power that Eivor has not only bestowed, but has received, especially if those two kings are beholden to her.
Yes, and they do pledge friendship, so they are now allied with the Ravens clan in that. Well, so there's another Viking that we talked about recently. His name is Dag, and he kind of serves as like Eivor's shipmate. Well, he's really a like warrior and beholden to Sigurd. Now, Eivor is acting in Sigurd's stead. So, like, Sigurd is Jarl of this Raven clan. But Eivor is the one he appointed to act as Jarl while he's gone. So she does have his authority. However, Dag doesn't think that Eivor is doing a good job. He thinks that Eivor is just after power for herself. And so it is a point that Dag eventually becomes fed up with this. And also Eivor begins as Eivor begin flirting with Randvi, who is Sigurd's wife. And basically she reveals that like her and Sigurd are basically in a political and loveless kind of relationship in marriage. And so there's information that you can get there. Well, Dag kind of sees that and he's like, what are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. You can choose to not engage in anything with Randvi and say like, you're married to Sigurd, I'm not going to do anything. Like, we need to end this relationship with Sigurd if we want to pursue something. That choice is the point that gains you approval or disapproval with Sigurd. Another choice that comes in, Dag will challenge you to a duel no matter what choices you make, and basically challenges you for leadership of the Raven clan. And he does this after you sit in judgment on people, very similar to kind of how you would sit in judgment in Dragon Age Inquisition, but you like settle disputes, like he stole my chickens, he killed my dog, what's the proper like remedy like for all of this. And then so after the fight, Eivor can choose to either let Dag take his axe or keep his axe from him. If you choose to give Dag his axe as he's dying, you do get approval points with Sigurd, even though he's not there for the whole thing. If you deny him his axe, you get disapproval points for Sigurd, which I guess makes sense. Like, Dag is just kind of exercising his rights and what he thinks is an improper, like, usurping of power on Eivor's point, even though that's not what's actually happening.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand completely why he would be upset. It does seem a little bit like this is a person who is kind of shoehorned into the story to kind of like have a check on Eivor's power, not necessarily like something that would actually happen organically in the game.
Yeah, it is kind of weird because when you first meet Dag, he's kind of like presented a little bit like, oh, you're this like quirky companion who gives me crap for being like stupid sometimes, but you're like my friend. And then like out of nowhere, he turns and he's like, he's pissed that you're in charge and Sigurd's not in charge. And it does kind of seem inorganic a little bit. But so as we continue, so now we are moving into the kingdoms of Wessex and Northumbria. And so while you're working in Wessex, you're basically working mainly in Sussex and Essex. You kind of you meet this person named Fuke. And she is kind of a religious zealot. She's not really Christian, but she has now gotten a hold of Sigurd and has like implanted in his mind this idea of like the gods were once among us. They once had great technology. They did all this, basically explaining the Isu to Sigurd as like the gods once walked the earth. Well, we get all this kind of ideas, and like in trying to like establish friendship with one of the kingdoms in Essex and all of these places, there's like this big conflict between Fuke and Eivor and everything, and we meet Alfred. And so Alfred basically offers a trade that they would take one of his generals for taking one of theirs. Well, Basim offers Sigurd without anything. And so Sigurd is traded to Fuke to like basically for her to experiment on. And we learn that Fuke is like working for Alfred, which is like a huge shock to everyone because she's not Christian and she's not very like religious and almost displays heresy. But Alfred is like, I'm a good Christian. So it's a big shock. And then Eivor is kind of like torn between this thing of like, I need to go rescue Sigurd, but I also need to keep building alliances. So there's a lot of time where she is like continually like dealing with the kingdoms of Northumbria and Wessex. She meets Halfdan the Black. She meets Guthrum, who is the main opponent of Alfred, which is a big deal. Like Guthrum is a big historical character in like the England versus the Danes conflict. And she meets Alfred in this moment. Now before, and during this time, she also comes into possession of the sword Excalibur, which I guess technically makes her Queen of England, but I guess that's another story.
Eivor is busy, man. Like I am exhausted listening to all of the things she has done.
But I just think it's funny that she finds Excalibur, but never at one point is it like, oh, I guess I'm Queen of England now, because like that's the mythology behind this Excalibur. Whoever wields this sword is, King or Queen of England.
Right.
But I think let's take our break before we kind of go into like the aftermath of all of this and the DLCs.
With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love, starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Today's top story, the flavor merger of the century between the Peanut Butter Group and Chocolatey Corp. Joining me is a PBC executive.
Thanks for having me, Barry.
Now, how did you know the merger and the byproduct of it, Jif peanut butter and chocolate flavored spread, would be a success?
It was a gut feeling, a rumbling, if you will. Besides, they're two titans of taste.
Very true. Goes great with pretzels.
And pancakes.
Apples too, I bet. Try Jif PBC today.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
Ma cos'è? Shoot! Shoot the flying demon! Malaka!
Malaka. I get the sense you two are ill fit for whatever it is you're plotting.
This one takes us for a fool, brother. We sons of Ragnar have this well under control.
No, we do not.
Sons of Ragnar. I know of many, but never have I heard of Dull and Duller.
All right. So welcome to the middle of the show. This is where we talk about all the things that have to do with the administration. I don't know. This is where we have to this is where we talk about all the things that don't have to do with the lore of Assassin's Creed. So, first and foremost, the first thing I have to tell you is that if you want to support us, the best possible way to support us is to support us via Patreon. We do have a Patreon set up with a few patrons, and we're so thankful for all of them. But if you want to support us, definitely hop on the Patreon. We even have tiers where you can come and join us on the show, and we will be starting patron episodes very soon. So make sure you get in there by January. Now, another great way to support us, if you can't support us financially, is to leave us a good rating or review on Spotify or on Apple. Now, I do have a review to read today, and this one is from Chris 031817. And Chris says, "Great podcast, 5 stars. I'm glad I stuck through the first few episodes. Technical issues. Your research is amazing, and you really give great inside views for even deep fans like myself. Thank you so much, Chris, for this awesome review. We're so thankful too that you stuck through the first few episodes. We did have some technical issues, but I think those episodes are remastered now, so you should be good for listening to the older episodes if you want to go back and haven't listened to them. So, leave us a rating and review, and we'll read it out on the show. And then the last thing that I have to tell you is that you should definitely join our Discord server. It's the best place on the internet. We have a lot of fun. We talk about Dragon Age, Assassin's Creed, the Inheritance Cycle, Mass Effect, all kinds of games. So come over there and hang out with us, and it's a blast. All right. Now, Austin, unless you have anything else you want to talk about in the mid-break, let's get back to it.
As a sports fan, I have to confess, sometimes the game gets kind of boring. That's when I unfold my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 and use multi-window viewing on its large screen. Boring game? I'm checking out my fantasy baseball league at the same time. Score still 1-0? I'm replying to emails in the other window, scoring points with the boss. Semifinals finally getting exciting? I'm buying tickets to the finals and booking my flights. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
Gatorade is the #1 proven electrolyte blend designed to hydrate better than water. So you can lose more sweat and raise your game. Gatorade, is it in you?
Want to live better? We got a lot of work to do. Join Chris Hemsworth in National Geographic's new Disney Plus original series, Limitless. Live better now.
I'm diving headfirst into cutting-edge science to uncover 3 powerful secrets to living better right now. The growth that occurs through any challenging experience is really what we seek.
Chris Hemsworth stars in Limitless. Live better now. Now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
It's showtime.
Me, Hatham. I come in peace.
Why are you speaking so slow?
Sorry.
What?
I was told you could train me.
No. Go away.
I'm not leaving.
Bianca! Bianca!
Is everything all right?
What do you think? Look at this place. And poor Bianca. If something's happened to her.
Aha! Oh, my darling. Thank God you're all right. Ezio, meet Bianca. Bianca, Ezio.
Charmed.
All right, well, let's get back into it. So we talked about Sigurd eventually being captured and transferred to Alfred, and he's tortured at the hands of QK and everything about there. It is then that she then reveals to Eivor and Sigurd that they are Isu sages, though they don't really understand what's going on about that. And there's a big conflict between Eivor and Basim over this. And basically that there are points in there where you can make a choice to punch Sigurd, you can make a choice to punch Basim, and then you can make another choice again to punch Basim. Anytime you punch them, you do get negative approval points with Sigurd. But there are times where Basim is being like callous and really a jerk that you do kind of want to punch him. And so after they rescue Sigurd and we learn that like she has cut off his arm and there's all kind of like torture, and like Sigurd is now kind of like a broken man at this point. Eivor eventually kills Fuke and it's a big deal and she rescues him. And so after all the deals of hunting down the Order and finding Alfred and doing all that, which we'll talk about in a moment, Sigurd and Eivor leave for Norway because Sigurd says that he's discovered like some kind of source of their godhood that they need to reclaim. So they leave for Norway and they eventually encounter the great tree Yggdrasil, and they experience a Valhalla simulation where they both think they've gone to Valhalla. But the big kicker that breaks this for Eivor is that her father is present in Valhalla. And Eivor is basically just like, you should not be here. Because let's remember, Varin threw away his axe and willingly died without a weapon. Now, he did it to save his people, but he died without honor. He died branded a coward. According to everything that Eivor has been taught and believes, her father Varin should not be in Valhalla.
Right. And so this takes her out, kind of like out of the simulation then.
Yes, and she very much thinks that, and like they do eventually escape, and when they escape, they're encountered by Basim, who reveals that he is a sage of Loki and attempts to kill Eivor, who he knows is a sage of Odin. After the conflict and everything, they trap Basim in the machine and escape. He's not then freed until Layla comes into the Yggdrasil tree in simulation, and we talked about that in our Loki episode. And so you can go back and listen all about that. And so that's kind of the end of the game. And now we do know that Eivor eventually does say her goodbyes and leaves for a place called Vinland. So we're going to talk about Vinland, which is a separate area. So Eivor assists Hytham with hunting down the Order of Ancients in England. This would take her all over across the places. It would take her to hunt down the Order in the cities of Jorvik, which is York, Winchester, and London. And so she would hunt down several Order members outside of these cities for a grand total of 30 Order members. So she kills 30 people across England who are all associated with the Order of Ancients. This does lead her briefly to go and hunt down Gorm, who has taken his father's place in the Order of Ancients. This leads her to a land that we know as Vinland, which is North America, where she interacts with the ancestors of Connor's tribe. And there's a whole thing where we talked about when we talked about the crystal balls, and that episode we talked about that artifact that Eivor encounters. Well, she kills Gorm and she gets that artifact and she builds this affinity with the Vinland tribe. And so she goes back and she hunts down the rest of the Order. She also hunts down an additional 15 people who are identified as zealots, which are just kind of like enforcers of the Order's will. If you've played AC Origins, they very much are similar to the Phylakitai. If you remember fighting those mercenaries that hunt you down.
How could you not remember the foghorn sound when one of them is nearby?
That's fair. And there's a similar horn sound when they're nearby in Valhalla.
There's only one video game sound that's worse than the Phylakitai sound.
The Reaper.
The Reaper noise from Mass Effect. especially Mass Effect 3. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So she hunts down the zealots, and eventually it is revealed that Alfred of Wessex is the Grand Master of the Templar Order. But not only that, Alfred is also the quote-unquote poor soldier under Christ, who has been helping Eivor hunt down the Order of Ancients. And so it's revealed that when Alfred inherited this position from his father and brothers as Grand Master, he actually hated the Order and wanted to see it destroyed. And so after Alfred meets with Eivor, he tells her that he's dissolving the Order and building it into something new and something more holy. And that's the end of the base game of Valhalla. So before we talk about the DLCs real quickly, do you have any thoughts?
I guess I find it interesting that Alfred says he wants to make the Templar Order into something more holy when you think about the modern day Templars, because there's nothing religious about them anymore. You know, before Alfred, they are very much like worshiping almost the Isu. And then Alfred turns them into something different that is more Christian based, but like they've lost all that now. So I find that interesting. And I feel like I want to say that Alfred failed in that, or even maybe that the modern day Templars have failed Alfred. So I find that interesting. That's the first thing I find interesting.
Well, it doesn't take, in a grand historical thing, it doesn't take very long for them to get to that point, because Rodrigo Borgia, when he's fighting Ezio in the Vatican Vault, is basically like, I don't believe any of this crap that the church is spouting.
Right, and he's supposed to be the freaking Pope.
Right.
If he doesn't believe it, who does?
Who should?
You know, I think Eivor is a really interesting character, but I don't know if her story cohesively and narratively makes sense with all the different things she does and all the different places she goes.
Well, it's kind of like, I think it comes from the fact that it's an open world game, and you have a choice of where to go when. So we don't really know like what the cohesive story is of when Eivor goes where.
No, I get that. I get that completely. I guess I just feel like Eivor is... This game wants to be an RPG, an open world RPG, but it doesn't let you create your own character. You don't get to play as a character that you create. You're still playing as a character that's created by Ubisoft, and it almost feels like they have tried to make this character of Eivor so open that you can customize it and role play in however you want to, that she then almost has no personality, that there's nothing that then makes Eivor unique.
I would agree with that for the most part. I mean, I don't know why it feels that way, because Cassandra is kind of the same way, though I guess Cassandra still has like a set plot that she follows through the world. She can deviate and do a bunch of side stuff all the time, but she has a set like progression that she follows and like areas that she goes to as she does that. Whereas like from the moment you land in England, you can go anywhere.
Right. And like, again, I guess I should preface and give a disclaimer, because I haven't played this game. Everything I'm saying comes from secondhand knowledge from everything you've told me. But like from a storytelling perspective, from a writing perspective, that's kind of how I feel. Maybe my opinion will change by the time I get to this game, but that's where I'm at.
Right. And that's true. Like I am telling it in like the big highlight points. There's a lot that I've left out that probably give the story some cohesion. But again, like if you want to know that, like go play the game.
I will.
I know you will. But just for our listeners, there is more to these stories. There's more that happens. But for time's sakes, I kind of condensed this into the big points. So now we're getting into the DLCs. So the first DLC that we're talking about is the Ireland DLC. And so Eivor makes her way to Ireland after meeting a friend of Hytham's called Azar, who was a merchant. And they go over there so that they will assist with the coronation of their High King, King Flann. There's tension between the Celts or Druids and the Saxons of Ireland. big surprise. The Christian Saxons are having difficulty with the native religious group in the Druids.
No way. I do feel like the Saxons just like had issues with everyone that wasn't themselves.
Yes, they did. Well, so the king wants Eivor's help in basically ensuing a smooth transition and coronation for himself. And so Eivor is then assisted by a red-haired bard named Clara, who has a voice that has the power to enchant men. Obviously leaning into like the druid Celtic stereotypes here.
So she's like a siren, basically.
Kinda, in a lot of ways. So she tells Eivor of a secret cult called the Children of Danu, who are basically behind the scenes and influencing this. So this is very similar to the Cult of Cosmos in that they are not the Order of Ancients, but they have similar ideals and they are kind of influenced and controlled by the Order of Ancients. So Eivor, again, hunts down the cult and secures the coronation. However, through a lot of inference, like things that happen, basically learning that Flond tends to be a Christian king and tends to like move against the Druids. Clara betrays Eivor and a fight ensues between the two. This leads Eivor to decide Clara's fate, and they destroy this big piece of Eden called I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's this big thing and a big deal. And this basically secures Ireland's friendship with Ravensthorpe. If you want more of the story, go play the DLC. I don't want to spoil and just go point by point what exactly happens in the game. And then after that, Eivor participates in the Siege of Paris, which historically has been the biggest Viking raid on a place in all of history. A bunch of Viking clans band together and basically sack Paris under Charles. I can't remember what number Charles he is, but he's Charles the Fat. And they basically, Eivor takes part in the raid and also works to dispose Charles the Fat from the throne. He works with his queen, and all of this stuff. Again, if you want more information, you can play that DLC. I highly recommend playing the Siege of Paris DLC. I think it's the best one of all of them. And so, yeah, that's Eivor's story.
It's very interesting. I am still excited to play this game. I know I feel like I've critiqued it a lot in this episode. So all you Valhalla stands out there, please don't be too mad at me. But Eivor, really, I feel like in reflecting on these past two episodes, Eivor is a remarkable character to have accomplished so much. And it's interesting to me that she doesn't seem to affect the world in any significant way. Like, she's not remembered. She's not like written down in the history books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, think about it. Think about like there is this mythological Viking character that was probably actually several people who had a role in all of these areas. And I mean, if you think about like this is a good moment of like the victors write the history books and like we remember and know like who the people who write history want us to remember.
Right.
And so as good historians, it's our job to try to uncover like the hidden gems or the hidden people that were there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do think we always do like why we like or love this character. And I think that with me for Eivor, I think that Eivor's story is compelling, but due to maybe voice acting or writing or dialogue, or maybe just like what you said, like the open-endedness of this, like I don't have a large like attachment to Eivor as a character, not the way I do to Bayek or Aya or Cassandra or Alexios or any of the other ones, or even like, you know, we go all the way back to Ezio. Like we have a huge emotional connection to Ezio.
Right.
And I just don't really feel that with Eivor.
Yeah, I agree. I don't feel that with Eivor at all. And you should. You should, because there's so much that happens. But I just don't feel like they did the work narratively to make us feel for Eivor.
Right. And like, and compare this, like Eivor does suffer a lot of trauma, but like, it's very easy to like game the system and like see where the best ending is going. in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where that wasn't the case in Odyssey. Like when I did my first playthrough of Odyssey, I got the worst ending possible. And like, it was heartbreaking, but it was so good that I kept that. I didn't save scum. And like, I played my Cassandra in retrospect of those choices. And I just really think that like when Cassandra cried and like felt this, like I felt that. I don't, like, Eivor is just like, oh yeah, this happened. I don't really care.
I also feel like, and this may be controversial, so bear with me. I also feel like Eivor as a woman, I feel like she has kind of the same problem that Rey has from Star Wars. Like, she has such a tragic story. We're supposed to feel bad for her. She's like a great fighter who accomplishes all these things, but for some reason she just falls flat. And I don't necessarily want to say that Eivor is a one-dimensional person, because I don't necessarily, from what I've seen of Valhalla, I don't think she's one-dimensional. But I just feel like the story as it's written does not do the character justice.
And maybe I need to read the Valhalla novelization to kind of like really get us this from a narrative storytelling perspective. Mm-hmm. But that's how I feel playing the game.
Right.
All right. Do you have any other thoughts on Eivor?
That is all I've got. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Assassin's Creed Lorecast. You can find us on Twitter at Assassin's Creed Lorecast, or you could talk to us on Discord in the Robots Radio Discord or our personal Discord server. Both links found in this episode's descriptions. Thank you for listening, and always stay to the shadows to serve the light, Assassins.
This episode is brought to you by FX's Alien Earth, the official podcast. Each week, host Adam Rogers is joined by guests, including the show's creator, cast, and crew, in this exclusive companion podcast. They will explore story elements, deep dive into character motivations, and offer an episode-by-episode behind-the-scenes breakdown of each terrifying chapter in this new series. Search FX's Alien Earth wherever you listen to podcasts.
Have you ever wanted to deep dive into the lore and stories behind all your favorite Marvel movies? Then do we have the show for you? I'm Captain Shenko.
And I'm Psych88. Join us as we dissect the media megalith that is the MCU. We'll talk about the origin stories, the fights, and everything in between.
The MCU Lorecast releases on all major podcasting platforms on Mondays as part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club and can be found on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.